All right. Howdy, Eggs. Here we go. We're going to have a look at the weekend of September 12th and 13th at Cut. If you're keeping score at home, that does put us about a week and a half behind what's been going on out there. But we're going to work hard to play catch up this week. And we're going to start with September 12th, the morning of September 12th. Again, for if you haven't been following along, Student Bonfire is operating under some pretty impressive and strict COVID protocols. That is making for the crews are split in half on Saturdays and Sundays, so they've already cut their per day attendance in half just to provide for more space in the woods and everything. And because of quarantine and isolation for even just suspected contact, just out of a abundance of caution, there will be whole crews that will stay home for a couple weeks. So it is going to look really different, but as with anything that looks different, it is also interesting. I'm enjoying watching how this year shapes up. So let's just go ahead and get started. Again, this is a new format, so bear with me. I'm still figuring out how this works and what this looks like, but we'll just get plugging away. So this is before everybody else arrives. There's some junior red pots here. And another junior red pot, one of the brown pots, and this is in Bonfire parlance, a dead red pot from a couple years back. So it is always nice when the quote deads come back and check things out and make themselves available. And so I do like to capture those moments, especially when it's just them. Not dissimilar from anybody's experience being a kid. You've got dads, and then there's always your granddad around to remind you that hey, your dad was kind of a character too, right? And so this is one of those kind of moments that I like to catch, the junior red pots and their one of their brown pots and the dead there. So I'm going to keep that one. These were really just incredibly interesting. I did not realize I was doing this. This is my finger on the shutter while I'm walking, and there's Ace tagging along. So all garbage. So, oh well. Here's Neely showing up. Nearly getting into their parking spots. Another one of the smart moves this year is giving everybody their own parking area so that the crews aren't overlapping and people are only spending time around people that they pretty much live with all the time anyway. So the woods just becomes an extension of that. There's a no fraternizing rule, and the parking helps keep that situation intact. I was just trying to play a little bit with the sunlight coming through here. Just playing around with the sunlight in the morning, not necessarily anything particularly about this scene. But anyway, so moving on. We got now. This is a thing. This has become a thing. People stretch in the morning, which I guess is good for the old hamstrings or something, and it really comes off as kind of a gag. So I like to see if I can capture that as the gag in the laughing opportunity that it is just to get loose mentally in the morning more than physically. However, as you can tell here, the mass situation does kind of interfere a little bit with what is happening, right? People are laughing. So one of the things that as I'm going through this year, I'm learning there's things that I used to be able to rely on to convey what was happening in the scene that I can't rely on anymore. Um, and again, so the challenge becomes how do you do that? And I imagine and I think you can actually see more of these in the photos that came the week after this most recent week. There's more attention being paid to the eyes that um, than I typically end up um, more close. Uh, I think a lot because of the masks and what the masks are doing. So this is I was over by the vehicles when the call was made for yellow pots and bud pots. Speaking of deads, this is a dead actually from my era, and so what's really exciting is to see people who built Bonfire with me, who can come out and visit. He was and now bring their families um, to spend time in this environment and understand it, um, and to know that we're getting close to a point. As crazy as it seems, my daughter, we're closer to my daughter coming out to the woods as an Aggie student, if that's what she chooses to do, um, than we are to when I was building Bonfire. We're kind of over the hill in that way. So, um, just the way it has progressed so much over the years, this is just one of those signs. And uh, this chief is from Hart. Um, Kendall, this brown pot was also from Hart, and you see the Hart pot there on his son, and so there he is familiar with this scene, um, running to go um, answer the yellow pot bud pot call, and here comes all the yellow pots from farther away. Um, and I feel like I'm happy with one of these. I like him in the center of frame and somebody out behind him trying to play catch up. So we're gonna go with that one. And again, this is what happens. The mask and the glasses situation. I do wear glasses, and I've got probably two or three uh, shots that I can really focus on and hopefully dial it in before the mask starts fogging up my glasses, and then I can't freaking see anything. So, especially with moving things, I'm losing focus. So I'm still learning how to deal with that. Um, I'm probably going to complain about that a whole lot this year. Just fair warning. Um, here's Neely doing their shenanigans. Again, just get used to this. It's going to happen so much. I was trying to focus on them. That didn't happen. Um, So they've gone. So when the yellow pots and the butt pots answer the call for yellow pots and butt pots, they go into the woods and they walk around the woods and they are introduced to what their section of woods is going to be for the day. And then when that is done, um, then um, uh, the yellow pots and butt pots run back out. Um, uh, they run back out to see everybody and get their crews together and bring their crews out into the woods. So this is that. This is Schumacher has now come back from the yellow pot bud pot call, and they're bringing their crews back out into the woods. And again, I know I said this last week, but they are staging the crews, cycling them going out so that not all of the crews are walking together side by side. That was a lesson learned in week one, and now they send the crews into the woods one crew at a time. And so this is Schumacher going into their woods. if if I remember correctly, they were back in those backwoods on this day again. The backwoods that I like so much. Um, there. And so I like this one. Uh, a junior red pot walking back, um, and the crew walking out of the woods and the crew walking into the woods. I'm gonna keep that one. And now FHK is departing behind them with appropriate social distance, as you can see. And FHK is going to be heading out to their woods. And, oh yes, I forgot. I forgot this happened. FHK was overeager. I forgot about that. They were overeager, and they were jumping in behind Schumacher, and to allow time for Schumacher to, say, hypothetically knock over their axe box on the way into the woods, which also happened. That way nobody would bump into each other. FHK was sent back. I forgot about that. So this is FHK going back for take 2. And now FHK is going back in the woods after Hart went ahead of them. So the big entrance shots, and I like the impact of the big entrance shots of everybody pouring into the woods at one time, and these big masses of people, and the pots all mixed up together with this storm walking next to this storm, and everybody walking in together, even they're going to be going to separate woods. I like the impact of that, but it is, to me, interesting this year to capture that is not a reality for this year, right? There is it looks sparse going in and disjointed, and that's an important reality about what's happening. So so we keep those and we share those and help people understand that. So at the beginning of every day, when you get into the woods, there's this period of clearing brush out of the way, getting a picture of what trees are available to you, how you're best going to be able to spend your time. And so there's a lot of brush clearing stuff that was left over from the week before, or this year from the day before sometimes. This is what we're seeing here in the FHK woods is dragging the brush out. The crew chiefs are walking around. They're picking the trees that they're going to want to go for, kind of spotting their prime targets, and everybody's got their own strategy. Do we start with something big and get everybody motivated, or do we start with something small and make it easier to get the big thing later? It's up to the crews how they want to do that. But that's what the crew chiefs do, is they scout around while their crews are clearing brush out of the woods. And what I was going for here is I felt like there was some interesting light coming in here from the sun off to the left. And so I just kind of parked here for a little bit to see if I could get anybody in an interesting light as they went into through this path into this back area that was full of brush to be cleared out. So that's all this is, just kind of parking there and combating the fog steam on my glasses and trying to get an actual real focus, and not being able to, so you know the drill. But I did feel like one of these, and yeah, this is so frustrating. I did feel like I got one of these that worked, and hopefully hopefully I did in fact get one, because the light was really cool coming out of here. There's what I'm looking for, something like that. So this is the yellow coming back out from back there with some members of his crew, and the enthusiasm for the day. Just look at the spark in his eyes as he looks to all these trees, and the huge smile on this guy's face. I mean, look how happy he is. So we're going with that one. For some reason, I don't know. I can't explain it. But for some reason, I just kind of think it's interesting. I do this a lot. I stop at these a lot. I stump with all of the trappings of a crew leaned up against it. I don't know why I do that, but I like those, and so I stop and take those a lot. Um, this is Hart getting into their axe box. Somebody from Hart getting into their axe box. Um, everybody's got their axe box full of their stuff, and in other years, what you might see is people trying to sneak into other people's axe boxes and play pranks and everything. Um, and you don't see that at all because there's no cross pollination of the woods. So there's the axe boxes I find this year are left alone with people not within eyesight and not within frame to take a picture of. Um, a whole lot more than there was in the past. Maybe that's my imagination, but that's what it feels like. Um, so here we are back in. Yeah, I am remembering correctly. Schumacher was in the back. This is them working on those backwoods, which again I just go back to so many times, and there's so much about this back corner. The light is good. It has cleared very well. It has opened up very, very well. It illustrates very well what happens to woods as Bonfire moves through them. Um, and there's that aspect, but it it's not just me who's putting a lot of attention into these backwoods. When we get to the photos from this past weekend, we're going to see that there's a lot of attention, a lot of manpower being put into these woods and clearing out all this yopon you see in the background and accessing these really tall trees where I mean they've got trees that are perfectly straight and over 30 foot of tree before you hit the first branch, and they've really put a lot of attention into these back trees. So I'm happy that the light is good in the place where it makes the most sense for them to work. So here the yellow pot is just monitoring as a dead Schumacher chief works on the tree, and even if you're dead, you still and there's this neat thing that happens. You might have been a leader before, and you might have been in this person's shoes before they are, but I really enjoy seeing the respect that the people who previously held the position show the people who are currently in the position. There's not this you just don't see this attitude of coming back and I did it before you did, so I get to do whatever I want. um, and here the current Schumacher Yellow is monitoring and giving guidance to uh, uh, prior Schumacher leadership. And so, I end up I'm drawn to photos like this. Last week when we saw the crew chief telling the Red Pot how she would prefer the tree be cut, and in this case, a current Schumacher leader telling a prior leader um, how he wants his wedge set up. So, of these, definitely, I'm going to flag one of these and definitely come back. There's a few of these that there's a few of these that I like. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's going to be this one right here. It's just the hint of, I'm happy to be sitting here working for you. Uh, just that little hint. I like it. So that's the one we're going to go with there. So here we go. And again, we're going to see a little exposure error here. Oh, good grief. More than just that. Oh, God. Jeez, man. This is just point and, oh, it's so awful. And look what I missed. Look what I missed. There's the tree coming down. So much of I, I, oh, I don't know. I got some good advice from Thomas Campbell, who's a fantastic Aggie photographer. I was complaining about the situation of not being able to see when I'm shooting these photos, and especially in the mornings when it's humid and the air is cool and the breath is hot. And so he did give me some good advice that I need to take him up on, some double-sided tape around the mask or whatever. Or I don't know, hurry up and get LASIK. Maybe. I don't know. Donate to my Patreon. Maybe we can make that happen. Um, so, ah, frustrating. Oh well. He'll cut down another one, I'm sure. So these are cool. I like these angles. I like the implied action that's happening that you can't see, and I do try to set up for these every now and then. The It is interesting and fun to get the actual moment of contact from up close. Um, in For instance, this, which was my favorite shot from the week before, and one of my all-time favorite um, wedge meets axe shots ever, and there's just something really cool about this. I don't know, the immediacy of being right here at the moment. You can see the striations and the dings and the all the details of the axe and the chips just beginning to spit out, and that's great. But there's also something that's cool, I think, about not seeing the actual strike, but seeing the chips out of the backside, and not having any visual on the axe at all. Um, so I did set up for this shot for some time to try and get that. Um, and close, almost close. It again. And I'll be honest. I do try, and there is some selective work going on, where sometimes when you freeze something, when you stop it just right, um, you catch something that it's not actually, it doesn't actually represent what you were seeing. Yes, there's an axe swing or whatever, but he's his eyes are, this is me just being silly, I guess, but his eyes are closed, and um, that's not communicating to me what I felt like I saw when I was there. And this is perfect. This is what I saw when I was there. So we're going to flag that, and we see the blur of the chips moving. Um, we we see the implied action. Yeah, you can see the axe a little bit, but you see that he's got a strong swing, and a swing that is interesting enough to shoot. And so that's just how I apply, selective looking sometimes, when I'm picking out which photo it is that I'm going to use. 1 second, I'm going to check on the stream here real quick and make sure. So I got to check in with YouTube saying that maybe there's going to be some buffering. We'll see. All right, so this was fun. So um, my daughters, uh, my second daughter was just at the age this year that I felt like that I really felt like she could come out and contribute to the experience, and also possibly get something from the experience as well. Um, so, and I'm very very sensitive to bringing her out to that. I don't want the kids to be a distraction, and I want the kids to be out there to do work if that's what they're going to do. And I resisted it for a really long time, and it was actually my wife who said, it's about damn time you take, at the time, my oldest daughter, to go see where it is that you are for half the weekend. And it was actually, surprisingly, it was her saying, you got to go take her out. And I took her out, and actually the Kruger dorm invited her out and invited her to be a member of their crew. And she's just eating it up, and she loves to talk about it, and she loves the experience, and she loves the work, and she loves her friends in the dorm. So my second daughter, this year, this is the first year where she was at an age that it was appropriate to let her go out and do the work. And so this is just me sneaking by her. I'm walking from one set of woods to the other, and I try not to get in their way while they're out there working. So that one's going in the daddy pile. Um, Anyway, before we went out there, I did take her out with the axe at our house and let her wail on a tree for a little bit just to see, is she physically ready to do this? And I got to tell you, she's she swings with a capacity that is actually kind of um, surprising, and I worry about how long my trees are going to last at my house. In any event, here we are um, back to more cutting. I was uh, I really really like the D750. Again, I'm not huge on gear, but I shoot what I'm comfortable with, and that's I'm very comfortable with the Nikon D750. And again, that's another recommendation from Thomas Campbell. I said, listen, man, I'm gonna be beating the heck out of this stuff. What should I use? And he said D750, and so I went with what Thomas said. And one of the great things that I've found with the D750 is that I can intentionally underexpose, um, and be able to bring back things that are maybe, well, definitely um, not where they need to be. But in this case, and I'm going to play with this one just a little bit. When I make adjustments to the photos, it's basically limited to exposure, highlights, and shadows. That's about it. I just I've talked about it before. I limit what I do to the photos. It works or it doesn't. But I have really enjoyed the D750 and being able to do something like this, where at its natural exposure, um, you know, this has got a pop of light and everything is very dark, and this little beam of light that's coming through to catch him, and to be able to bring that back just a little bit so that this continues to pop, but the back is not completely muddy. So I'm gonna play with that with just a little bit more. But that's one of the cool things about a camera, at least that I'm very pleased with, in the D750. So props to Thomas Campbell on that. Follow Thomas Campbell on Twitter, by the way. That's you definitely have to do that. Outstanding photographer and a good Aggie, and Bonfire motivated. Um, Again, this is another the pop of light coming through the woods, and so again, I'm going to bring that one back a little bit. There's actually a few. There's actually a few in here um, that I try to play that trick with. Uh, Here we have again, the uncommon situation of a junior red pot who is jumping in on a tree and has got a crew chief saying, this is what I would prefer out of this tree. And so I spent a little time on this shot because all the heights and levels were right, that I felt like I could get something interesting. And this is the one. I like that one. I actually like that you only see one eye. as the tree is contacting, that's the one I'm going to go with. And the focus on that wedge and the shape of that wedge as it's coming together, and the layer of the junior red pot working on the tree, I like that one. Here's another angle of the same scene. Here's, speaking of deads, this is Alec, many years dead, many. There's a really, one of my favorite bonfire photos that I've seen is one that was taken by Frederick Broden when he came out to shoot for the ESPN article in 2014. I mean, he got a lot of really great photos, but one of them is the morning kind of unfolding in the background as Alec stands as a junior red pot on the truck, with, I believe he was wearing a I Kill Trees shirt. He was the truck. Junior red pot would be truck red pot. So that's how dead Alec is. He was a junior red pot in 2014, but was in a really great photo. Really enjoyed that photo and all of the photos that Frederick Broden took. So ESPN Bonfire article 2014. Look that up and look for the photos. Just really incredible stuff. So again, this is me sneaking from one bit of woods to the next and finding and checking in on my daughters, and their motivation level. Here's Hart finishing a tree. I like the photos with intensity. I like the photos with where you can tell that this is getting tiring and this hurts. But also, it's fun every now and then to catch somebody who's just having fun. And she was definitely just having fun. There's just a certain cheeriness, and so I got that one. Another Hart guy. Hart has such a distinct personality, and the really interesting thing about Hart that I've always marveled at is that year after year after year, without fail, Hart has the same personality, and I think there's probably something in the water or something. I don't know if it's something the pipes are made of or something in the dorm. I don't know. But Hart just has this really quirky, wild. I'm actually going to go with this one instead of the ones earlier. Hart's just so damn interesting. I feel like every time I'm in the woods with Hart, it just, kind of feels like Gorillas in the Mist, I feel like Jane Goodall. Just observing. Don't interfere. Just observe. And so here they are rolling a log. So that tree that they just fell, rolling that around. Again, I've confessed to the fact that I do cheat, and I'm learning to not apologize for it. The totally obvious, easy win of, you try to take a photo that tells a story or communicates a motivation or a purpose, and it would be harder and more noteworthy to have the content of the photo do it, but sometimes I cheat and I take a picture of a shirt that clearly states what is happening. And so I confess, I did it. And I did it here, BTHOB in the Neely Woods. And so here's some downswinging going on. And I find that I do this a lot, this sort of thing. where there's something that sort of frames or limits the view. I've done that. We saw that last week with some photos shooting through bushes, so that the subject was actually a very small portion. I do it with things in the foreground like this, a log laying here. I just kind of like that. But what I was really aiming for here, after I got a good look at the scene, was, and I really hope these work. And sometimes it unfortunately just ends up being my imagination when I'm seeing it, but I don't know if you can tell. You see that shadow? The Peter Pan effect, right? And when it's moving and when there's action, you can tell what it is. When you're there in witnessing what's going on. But sometimes when you freeze it, when you stop it in a photo, it might be a little hard to tell that what I'm taking a picture of is the shadow of somebody swinging an axe. And I am, sometimes they're not all exactly right, but they're still interesting enough to me that I'm going to go with it, and I'm going to try something different the next time. I can tell that the leaves and the brush and twigs and stuff have caused enough distraction to the shadow that you can't tell what it is. And I'm just going to note to self, see if I can get this some other time in a place where there's a smoother surface. But I'm still going to keep this one anyway, because to me it's close enough, and I do like the, you can draw a line corner to corner. The subject here being the shadow coming out of the bottom right corner and reaching towards the top left. Um, yeah, yeah, that's my thought on that. Yeah. Right. So, um, this was from that spot, turning back around and seeing a heart down swinging um, on that same tree that we saw them cut down. Now this was an interesting angle to me. I like sometimes the photos that when you're right there and you're right next to the photo, it makes sense that something's happening. You're right there. Sometimes I like the impression that's made from a photo from far away, just kind of peeking into the woods and showing that there's stuff happening even when you're not there. Even when you're not right in front of what's happening, there's still something going on. And I think that's what I like about the photos that are taken from far away, peeking into the woods. Is there's always something happening. It's not just happening when you're right there. Um, Now, um, what I want to see is if I was able to get one of these that at this distance, at this focal length, these two are actually separated by a great distance. Um, and unfortunately, at this distance and this focal length um, and this exposure, I might have to play with this one. It's not doesn't have the exposure that I would like, but I'm wanting to make sure that it's clear that in the photo that the actual great distance between these two is represented. Because I definitely don't want an accidental trick of the eye to make it look like they are closer together than they actually are. So I'm gonna have to go back and see if there's one that conveys that image I was going for without conveying something that I was not going for. Here's another one of that weird thing I do of peeking through brush and watching. It typically ends up being a downswing situation when I'm peeking through the brush because there's this is the canopy of the tree that he's swinging on. At some point, this tree is going to be completely taken apart, and then there won't be anything for me to shoot through. It's not very often that I can peek through brush at somebody who's swinging on a tree, though when I have the opportunity, I will do it. It gives the impression again of things are happening even when you're not there, and I've always just been interested in using the scene around you to bring focus. So, using these leaves and this tiny gap to draw your attention to this one thing that's happening and to frame it. And I think he did get out of there before I was able to get the one that I wanted there. But it's possible that I got one here. This sort of thing is interesting to me in that you could tell there's effort going on here. There's somebody is doing something that is not easy, but I would like it to be more obvious what it is that is so tiring. And here, we see a little bit of the axe, but we don't see the effort. So I will. This is going to be one of the sets that I flag and say, all right, let's go back and look in more detail and see if we were able to get one that does it. But this one looks a little interesting, but this looks like a failed experiment. This looks more like a failed experiment than anything. This one right here, just because I'm not happy with this. I know I said earlier that I liked that I could only see one eye on the other photo, but that felt different. That this is not. I don't know. So I'm gonna flag one of these, and we're gonna go back and look at that setup because make sure I'm not missing one that really works. So we're back in the FHK woods again. Here they're cleaning. You can tell by the treatment of the end of this that this was something that was down swung on and turned into a branch that would be thrown in the brush pile. Here's something that does happen. Again, we talked about it a little bit last week. Sometimes you've got this really red-ass motivational cutting down a big tree. And sometimes you have to do stuff like cut down crappy yopon. And you gotta do this action. So this, it happens. Right, this sort of work happens, and so it's important to get that it's not all spraying these huge chips. Sometimes you're just down in the dirt cutting off the yopon so that people can move logs in and out, or the tractor can get back, or whatever it is. I did get a little bit lower. I actually think this is one I'm going to go with. I like this one. We'll leave the other one just so that I can go back later and look at them side by side and see if I like them. This was kind of close quarters, right? So sometimes that you get this, you can't get to this one without getting to this one, and so you end up having to swing a little bit differently, and that's interesting and different, and not everything is the same, and not every time do you get to walk up like you're, Jeff Bagwell, and swing away. So sometimes you got to get into these tight corners and swing a little differently, and so I do like to get pictures of those, and just as it looks different. Everything looks different all the time, and there's always different situations. So maybe one of these. I've talked about it before that sometimes this is interesting when an axe it looks like it's going towards the tree, but there's chips already. And so when the axe bounces off, the chips are in the air because the axe just hit the tree. But when you freeze it, it looks like the axe isn't to the tree yet, and then there's chips flying away. Sometimes that looks interesting, especially if you can and show that this is the chips are flying as the axe is rebounding. So the axe is already getting ready to come back again and go back and then come back into the tree. So it's already starting the next cycle while the chips are still in the air. But when it's caught like this, it to me it is confusing, and it would it cause possibly somebody to look at it in a way that's not necessarily that would be distracting. In other words, again, that's me. This is me overthinking every damn thing. I do like these sorts of things. So sometimes it's due to available light. Sometimes it's just kind of the different way that you want to shoot an axe coming into a tree. Sometimes it's interesting to stop it and see every little detail. Sometimes it's interesting to be able to see every detail of the tree while you capture the motion and blur of the axe and the chips. And I just kind of find that it's best to shoot whichever one the available light provides you. And in this case, in the back of the back of these front woods, with the sun just rising, the available light is saying that the way to shoot this shot is to make this one where you capture the tree in detail, and then you catch the action and the motion and the blur of the axe. This one, I happened to catch it right when the axe had stopped on the tree. I think this is one of those cases where it's the first shot that works. So we're gonna go with the first shot on that one. To my memory, I have not done that yet this year. This particular type of axe hitting the tree shot. So I do try to keep a mental note. I don't want to wear anybody out on anything. Oh, I've seen this before, that kind of stuff. So here's this young man in those tight quarters, the trees there being so close, and this is him adapting to that situation. And from this angle, it actually makes it more interesting. When they were from over to this side shooting this way, that space was kind of exaggerated, but now the lack of space is exaggerated, and I prefer this. So here we are now in Kruger Woods. This is a pretty sizable tree. This is the crew chief leaning on her handle, watching the conduct of this wedge. This is a couple things that I wind up doing in one shot. The subject framed, right, using the arm and the body of this person, and then another thing that I like to do, which is this implied figure, this character. You know that it's a person, but you just don't know who. And especially when you start to do that around burn or around stack or at center pole unload, which ends up happening at sunset, and there's the great silhouettes or whatever. Sometimes it's fun to be able to take a picture that allows people to insert themselves, or insert somebody that they knew into that spot, without having a face on it, and to just have this implied figure allows you to kind of substitute your experience into that photo. So just a couple of things that I end up doing all in one shot. Maybe I'm just Maybe that's just my own thing, but I'm keeping that one, and you can't stop me. Here's the chief working on um, her own tree some, and here is somebody else working on that tree. I've liked that. I mentioned the height of wedges earlier. Um, uh, One of the other videos. I like that the higher wedges are more the exception than the rule this year. So this is a little bit of a lower wedge, and they're really getting maximal uh, length out of these trees, um, which is very important. There's so many years where you're putting stack together. Every one of these is going to end up out at stack site. They're going to get cut, and the bottoms that are here wedges are going to get cut flat and turned into logs, and then you measure them and you see what tier of stack they go on. Every log touches the ground. And what you do is you use really tall logs in the center, and then as you work your way out at intervals, you move to the next shortest log, so 32, 25, 20, 15, 10. And there's just so many times as the wedge heights have gotten higher that what's happened is they're looking around for, we need a few more 25 footers, and all they've got is a bunch of 24 footers. And meanwhile in the woods they've got wedges that are 3 feet off the ground, and they could have gotten that extra 16, 18 inches. And so, all that to say, the wedge heights this year do are kind of trending downwards, and we're actually going to see as people get farther into the year, um, we're going to see that some of these wedges are getting really low. And so I have captured, and that happened last week. I captured a few of those that got really low, and I think I might have actually gotten one that was pretty low in Schumacher Woods. Um, so I like the Lone Chief here. Sometimes what you'll see on the side of the pots, if you ever see anything that looks confusing, uh, people will put their nicknames on the sides of the pots. So that's what that means. That's her nickname. Um, there's some weird stuff on the pots. I'm not gonna lie to you. And here, um, I'm leaving for the day, and as I'm leaving, I hear the truck behind me, and so I whipped it around. Got on the highway and whipped it around so that I could catch the truck heading down the road with some logs on it. And where cut site is this year, it's just straight up OSR from stack site. Um, and so it's a straight shot for these trucks. They just hop on OSR and just keep going until they're at stack um, around Benchley, just north of the Brazos County Robertson County line. All right, so we've gotten through the 12th. I'm gonna take a couple peeks at the 13th, and then we'll probably call it a night for tonight and jump back at it hopefully tomorrow. But just jump in and look at the 13th real quick. Um, I'm sorry. Did I just cough on you? I did. I apologize. Mute button. I'm learning that. So anyway, um, this is the uh, uh, butt pot running to the yellow pot butt pot call. This was intentional. This focus thing. This wasn't uh, what's been happening. I was actually trying to get the focus on them in the back, and him in another layer running towards them. That shot did not work. That was just it was just a shot that did not work. Um, for some reason, this butt pot is running in the other direction. And here they are going off into the woods to look at the woods that they're going to be working in that day. Um, Core checking in. So many core guys. Um, there's one of the outfit butt pots. So one thing that we're going to see this year too, and I am just going to look at a few more of these, and then we'll look at the entirety of the 13th tomorrow. But one thing that is really outstanding about this year is there's just so much core motivation. There were a lot of guys on the 13th. Um, there were more guys this last weekend. Guys, there were more members of the Corps of Cadets. It's not all male, right? So there were more motivated Aggies out there, and even more than this week of the 12th and 13th. So it's just like it's growing every week, which is so great to see. As somebody speculated with me when we were talking about the core numbers and where that was coming from and where all this availability of the core is coming from. This, again, you don't wish a year like this on anybody, but there are sometimes things that happen that you didn't expect that um, uh, at least there's something in the situation, and one of those things is that the Corps has this opportunity to come out and participate in this safely um, because of the football games and so many other activities in the fall that are no longer um, the Corps cannot go to the football games, and or at least in the full numbers, and the band can't march during the football games, and um, all of these represent tremendous chunks of their time on the weekends, and now that time is available, and that's what at least was put forward as an explanation for how the Corps is so available this year, um, and I'm happy to see that they have an outlet for fellowship and motivation and coming together, and again doing so safely, and giving something back to the this community that is Texas A&M, and having this experience that spans so many generations. Um, I should point out, since I stopped here, he is not tweeting um, or face spacing or whatever. Um, he is actually checking in core participants. So one of the cool things this year that Bonfire was able to accomplish is you want to check everybody in. You need to know everybody who's there. You need to be able to go back and look at who was there. The check-in procedures are incredibly important this year. Um, but you also want to be able to keep people distant while they are checking in. And, uh, Bonfire was able uh, to solicit and get for free the services of Brazos Wi-Fi and Ocalo Creative, who created an app and basically a mobile internet that there's no internet signal out here, um, and but this solution that these two companies provided is an internet that is disconnected from the internet. So it's this mobile machine device, antennas, and all that stuff that allows people to do their check-in on their phone, so that the crews don't have to all come to the same point and grab the same pin to sign in and be close to each other and cross, mix. Everybody can just get to where they are, stay in their parking areas, pull up their phones. The leadership can pull up and see a list of everybody who's on their crew, and they can check everybody in. You know who's there. Everybody stays distant. So that's what's going on here, and I did want to capture that. Um, uh, and I don't care if it looks like he's tweeting. Um, so um, here again, Kruger going into the words, and now here's uh, my children again. I forgot. I completely forgot that the day before, I thought Kruger was going to be out there the day before, and they were not. They were actually out on Sunday. So that's where we saw my children out on Saturday for a brief while. But this is the day that they actually got to work with Kruger. Um, so we'll look at a little bit of those tomorrow. There's a few of them actually working. So this is me just taking a daddy moment to other stowing places, but uh, these are for Dad's book. The youngest having her first trip out there, carrying the axe head pointed forward, axe handle on her shoulder. Daddy's proud. So anyway, we'll see more of those tomorrow. We've got that's about half of the weekend. We've just looked through a little over 600 photos. We've got about almost 800 photos left for the entire weekend of the 12th and 13th. Um, Many more photos on Sunday than there were on Saturday. So actually 900. There's 902 photos left. And then we will be through with the 12th and 13th. And then we will look at the photos from this past weekend. And we'll see some of these things start to develop. Again, we talked about the wedge heights and how those are shaping up. We talked about how the woods are opening up and how that starts to change, and the different scenes and things that you can communicate and experience are starting to change. And we're going to I tried to capture some of those things, and it's just really interesting to watch the year mature. And so I hope to catch you tomorrow. Again, it'll be later in the evening. Follow Student Bonfire at Student Bonfire on Twitter. Follow the gallery at Dion C Gallery on Twitter. Share with your friends. Subscribe to the channel to get updates on when these late night photo culling sessions are going to happen. Share the channel with your friends, your buddies, your motivated Aggies, people who like photography, whatever. And I hope to see you. Thank you very much. Thank you for your support of the gallery, and thank you for your support of Bonfire. Gig 'em, stay well, stay motivated, build the hell out of Bonfire.